Hello and welcome back to episode 629 of the Journey Through Games, playing almost every Super Nintendo game released in Europe and the US, just missing out the sports games. And today we are playing Yogi Bear, which I've got a feeling might be a game that I played earlier. Yeah, it's looking really familiar, under a different name when I've sort of early on in the Journey Through Games. Because it's like a platformer that's quite similar to Donkey Kong Country, like not in terms of graphics, but in terms of the way it plays. So we're about to find out if that was indeed true or not. So I just thought I'd give it a go. Yeah. So far, I do sort of see the Donkey Kong Country resemblance. Not in the graphics, but in terms of the, I guess, the sort of animal characters. I don't know. That screen at the beginning reminded me of Donkey Kong Country, you know, where you're basically progressing along on a map, on a 2D map. That was it looked a little bit like Donkey Kong Country's overworld map. Donkey Kong Country is still my favourite platformer on the Super Nintendo. And I don't really think it's close. I don't think there's anything else that I like as much. I'd say Super Mario World is probably the second. I actually do quite like Super Mario 2. The one that was released as Super Mario 2, not the Lost Levels, which is Doki Doki Panic for anyone that's got an internet connection and has watched any kind of retro video game stuff ever will know that Super Mario 2 was released in Japan as Doki Doki Panic, and then the original Super Mario 2 in Japan was considered too difficult for the Western audience, so they skinned Doki Doki Panic and turned that into Super Mario 2. How long does this level go on for? Ooh, oh, no. Bugger. Trying to turn it into a bit of a Sonic game. Just keep going. Is there a checkpoint? Yeah, this bit here. This just reminds me a little bit of Donkey Kong Country. Snow Business, Stage 1. The sort of constant movement of the camera, you know, like up and down, that's a little bit, not nauseating, but I'm not so keen on it. Oh dear. Also, snow levels as well remind me of Donkey Kong Country. The game doesn't start on a snow level, but it does have a snow level where you slip slide all over the place, and it is quite annoying. I quite like Super Nintendo games that aren't super difficult, which I don't think this is, but I am making a complete hash of it at the moment. Can't even complete the first level. I think I'm rushing. That's probably why. Because yeah, when I play like retro, I don't particularly like overly difficult games. I've talked about this before, other than sort of Souls games, but they're difficult in a not in a typical way. It's kind of hard to explain the difficulty of Souls games if you haven't experienced them. Yeah, I prefer not like easy that you don't have to pay attention. It's that difficult balancing act to reach where it's difficult enough that it's engaging, so you do have to think. You can't just sort of mindlessly sit there and think about something else. But at the same time, it's not so difficult that it inhibits your progress. Something else that I think did a really good job in terms of difficulty was I played. Oh no, that's got me twice. I did the Resident Evil 4 remake recently, and I played it on hardcore. I think it was because I played the original, and I thought, oh, I'll give hardcore a go because I'd completed the original, and I've played quite a few Resident Evil games. In fact, I think I've played all of them except like the the ones that aren't part of the main series, like Gun Survivor and those sorts of things, Umbrella Chronicles and that sort of stuff. But anyway, the hardcore mode on Resident Evil 4 I think did a good job of being difficult where it's engaging, but if you focus and pay attention you can complete it. I think it was one of the things that game did really well. One of the quite a few things it did really well. And it sort of lost that for me because I played the main game on hardcore, so it turned out into a bit more survival horror-ish in that I had to sort of pay attention to my ammo. You still had to shoot everything to progress, not like an old school survival horror game, but you had to, at the very least, spend time in the environment hunting out for ammunition, because it would make things much easier for you. What was I going to say? This is that bird thing, isn't it? Let's get to the other end of here and then. So I did the main story on hardcore, and then I did the Ada Wong DLC Separate Ways on normal. And it was just a complete lack of challenge. You might say it was my fault for choosing normal, but hardcore at the end, the difficulty obviously is ramping up throughout the game, and by the time you get to the end of the game, the last couple of bosses, Krauser was tough, was probably the tough, and then Salazar himself was tough. Until how did I beat Salazar? I think there's I think I looked online and there was like a strategy you could use to beat Salazar, which I used and got past him without too much difficulty. And then I went on to, and by that point it was like getting to the point in terms of the difficulty where it's no longer enjoyable because you're not making progress. It's like real roadblocks to progress because the bosses were so tough. I remember Krauser was really tough. Again, I looked online and I saw a strategy, basically where you jump and keep running up the steps, up the ladder. Oh no, come on. Nearly completed this level. Run up the ladder in order to kind of get him to sort of mess up his AI, and then use that as like a loop in order to give you an opportunity to shoot him. So I did that. So that's why I didn't continue to do Separate Ways on hardcore. I was just kind of a little bit, I'd had enough of the game, I think, by that point, and I just wanted to do the Separate Ways, just kind of like the completionist part of my brain wanted to do it, but I don't really necessarily want to spend a long time slaving over it if it was going to be quite tough. So I just wanted to breeze through it. But yeah, the downside of that, being able to just breeze through it, was it just wasn't as engaging as the sort of main game, and I think it was because I played it on a lower difficulty. But anyway, that'll do it for Yogi Bear. I've played this game already earlier on in the journey through games. Let's see what it was called elsewhere. Let's just have a look. I've got a feeling it was like, it was the Adventures of Yogi Bear, so it would have been like one of the first games I played. Just Adventures of Yogi Bear, not the Adventures of Yogi Bear. One of the earliest games I played. It's okay. I think from what I remember, it's like a competent platformer. So yeah, that'll do it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time.